All right, welcome to this new episode of Success Crisis New Success. Today we have Jameson Brandon here with me. First of all, before I start with the explanation of his story, and he will tell us his story, I, I interview people with different reasons. The main idea is like everybody is successful, and some are more externally successful, some more internally successful. But at the end of the day, it's all finding our own way to be successful. And Jameson has a quite of impressive bio, I have to say. So here's the thing: Jameson is an entrepreneur. What he called himself a biohacker, and he can tell us later what that means. And he's also a fitness junkie. He's the highest paid peak performance coach for marketers, sold over $1 million in digital products to over 13,000 people worldwide, has driven over 1 million visitors to sales pages in 7 days, worked with Yahoo and top search companies on sales copy, conversions, and optimization for marketing. So welcome, Jameson, and thank you. I'm very pleased that you're part of this.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
You know, listening to that intro, it's humbling every time to kind of hear that, I guess, from somebody else's mouth. So, yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay. How is it humbling?
Just to kind of look back on what I've accomplished, and it's pretty cool. Yeah. So it's humbling in the sense that just remembering kind of what I've gone through and what I've been through. Because immediately each one of those points triggers something in me, like some sort of emotion, because, for me, I'm thinking of the firsthand experience of, working with the different companies or, publishing the digital products that we did or, accomplishing that actual goal. So
it's like you were into it and now you have someone telling you, hey, you did that before, you remember?
Yeah, exactly. Because again, like one of the things that people tend to lose track of is their victories. So it's really easy to get down on yourself, and we'll talk about this more, I'm sure. But it's really easy to think of like what I haven't accomplished, and so to kind of have a reference point on what you have accomplished, I feel is important.
Yeah, I like you talk about victories. Like for someone like me who's been a tennis professional before, still involved in it somehow. Hearing about victories. So let's talk about your victories and how you perceive victories before, and then the idea of having a crisis to help you to define your new victories, your new kind of success.
Sure. Well, I think it's important to walk through really the storyline of this and give as much detail as I possibly can to really get a full understanding of it. So how it started was I transitioned. I think the most important place to start is when I actually got into online marketing itself. I was doing door-to-door sales at the time, and so let's kind of pre-frame that a little bit. I did door-to-door sales in some of the roughest parts of the United States of America, which if you watch the news from another state or another country, you'll probably understand this. So I did door-to-door sales in downtown Detroit, which is in Michigan, very violent city.
I know about it.
Yeah. I'm sure they play the highlight reel of how bad Detroit is. I mean, you could buy a house for $1 right now in Detroit. That's how bad the economy is. And so I did door-to-door sales in Detroit, and later on in some of the outskirting cities of Miami, which was one of the worst ones, was Hialeah, which is I think they call it like Little Haiti. It's very, very dangerous. And so anyways, during that time, I was basically going into businesses cold and figuring out the fastest way to create rapport with gatekeepers, get through, and then sell my product or service. I had guns pulled on me. I was attacked by a dog. I was almost stabbed. I almost went to jail for solicitation. I mean, this was like this type of thing that happened every single day in Detroit. I mean, it was literally like I would pray in the morning that I would just come home alive. And I did that for several reasons. One is I thought that I was really bad at sales, and so that was kind of my way to experiment and throw myself into the fire to get better at sales. But when I transitioned and got transferred to Miami, I just burned out, and I hit the point where I was like, okay, I've learned what I need to learn with this. Let's move on. So at that point, it was funny because I was in communication with my dad at the time, like really heavily, because I was unhappy, and I was like, hey, I need a solution. And he's just like, man, I'm researching this stuff online, and there's all these guys making all this money. And of course, he's talking about internet marketing, and you know, you read a sales letter, and it's like how to make, you know, $1,345,000 in 15 minutes doing these 3 simple steps. And so like he fell for it hook, line, and sinker, and so did I, because I was looking for a quick solution. So I fell for it. I actually moved back home at the time with them, my parents, and then I started to kind of like build up in my knowledge of internet marketing. It took about 2 years on and off of really making no money and, you know, learning the ins and outs of the trade. I actually landed and ended up working with local businesses to help them improve, you know, bottom line. So sales and marketing numbers. How do we get more people in the door? How do we re-engage previous people? How do we get referrals? Just really simple stuff. Like people look at that and they're like, wow, that's really basic. And I would agree, but you got to understand is that local businesses are like 15 years behind the internet. Also, too, nowadays they have people pounding their door down like, hey, you need fan pages, you need mobile, you need apps, you need all this crazy stuff. And it might not necessarily be the case. So I took a very simplified approach, and it worked really well. From there, I had transitioned into creating digital products because all the stuff I was creating for local businesses, I was just like, well, if it worked for me, then there's like probably other guys out there that do what I do, and they would love to buy what I have. And I was really good at finding developers to create actual software stuff that would like hack different things in a small business and help them. And so I just took that concept and I found the Warrior Forum, which if you're into internet marketing, I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's a really popular internet marketing forum, and you can sell stuff. And so I started selling stuff, and over the span of the next 12 to I'd say 18 months, completely grew. Just like it was almost probably straight up and down from a bell curve standpoint, because we started doing launches on the forum, quickly became really popular because we had quality products. They were unique and really simple too. So affiliates made a lot of money with our products, and so they loved us. You know, the marketplace liked us. And so I just kept creating digital products, which eventually, I'll tell you in a couple of minutes, got me into trouble. But what started to happen with that is my ego grew. And to set a little context too is I never had business training at any point in my life. I started working at like the age 12, and I just did whatever I could to make money. And so I never really had personal development work. Like I wasn't introduced to Tony Robbins till like 5 years ago, and to actually reading his stuff. And so I never had any experience like that, never went and did anything spiritual, never was really religious. So like I had all that coming into my experience with making a lot of money really quickly. And so this was really like the biggest surge of income I had, because within that 18 months or a little shy of that, we did over $1 million in digital product sales. So my ego grew with that. And along the way, what I started doing was I started thinking I was more and more special than I really was. And I became very arrogant towards the JV relationships that we had and the business partners that I had. And so I ended up burning a lot of those bridges because I thought that I was special and that I didn't need them and that I was the greatest. And so through that course of that journey, you know, we moved out from launching on the forum. We started launching our own sales pages. You know, at this point, you're talking about $10,000 to $50,000 copy, you know, just for one product, you know, which you could spend way more than that by getting somebody really, really good to do the sales copy. But that's where our prices had gotten with what we were investing just in the sales copy to sell a product. And with that, you know, the paychecks became bigger and bigger. You know, I remember making, I think it was like $120,000 in like a day, which was pretty crazy. And so if that doesn't change your life, I really don't know what would. And like I said, you know, as my ego started to grow, I naturally surrounded myself with people that were enabling me to be more of an asshole and to spend my money without thought process and just be very, very arrogant. This led to my further demise, because what ended up happening was through unhealthy relationships, the women I was dating and the friendships that I had gathered, the business partners that I had burned and affiliates that I had burned, I was left with almost nothing. And it seemed like it happened overnight, but I contributed to it, you know, consistently every single day, chipping away at what I had built. The building of it was the easy part.
Sorry.
God bless you. The building of it just required me to bust my ass. You know, I was working 16, 18-hour days. I had no idea of, you know, really the physical taxing that I was doing to my body. So it's like, just imagine all the physical taxing of my body, the mental and physical from the people around me, and all of it just coming to a head and then it popping. So it popped. I lost my condo. My car got repoed. I was completely like out on the street almost in terms of people that were willing to support me with any venture that I wanted to get into, and really direction-wise, I was quite lost. All right, and this led me to, I'd say maybe 2 years of spiritual searching, because I was just like, wow, there's a lot of shit I need to fix with myself. Like, I was really really down on myself, and so I was overly critical with probably everything I was analyzing at this point. But I thought, you know, we need to spend some time with personal development. I need to really take time to figure out what went wrong and how I can better, you know, serve people, because like I knew that something deep in my heart and in my stomach didn't feel right with the route I had taken. And the money didn't fix anything. That's another common misconception I feel like people outside of the realm of success have, is they think that, oh, wow, when I get all this money, it'll fix things. Or all I need is this much money and it'll fix everything. Trust me, it does not fix anything. It actually, if you're depending on your state of mind, it'll make things way worse. And for me, it made things way worse. You know, I came from nothing. Very middle class, borderline poor family. We lived in a 900 square foot home up until I was like 18, 19 years old. You know, all I knew was that the concept of busting my ass and it would work out. And so during this time, I mean, I did everything. You know, I went into the jungle. I took psychedelics. I, you know, did experiments where 30, 60, 90 days I would just be high out of my mind on different kind of drugs to really get myself under control. You know, I delved into everything personal development wise, Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, and then into deeper stuff and talking about, you know, self-image and self-esteem and things like that, because I knew that was the issue. Because when I got the money, I had that concept too. I would get the money and it would fix everything. And so obviously that didn't work for me. And so it took a long time to really, I guess, figure these things out. And then I got to a point to where I was like, okay, I've got myself figured out. And now it's time to really show up in the marketplace and show up in a direction that I want to go that will really serve people and leverage and give them the knowledge that I've accumulated through the 10 years experience I have from the fitness world to, you know, doing door-to-door sales, to doing marketing. Like, there's a lot that I had to offer, and I was just ready and eager to get that out there. Now, many people listening to this would probably be wondering how I was making money during my time of crisis. I was very lucky to actually be able to very quickly pivot into selling and marketing software to other internet marketers and entrepreneurs that wanted to go and sell this themselves. It's called white labeling. And so that I just fell into. So just imagine, as I'm falling out of my success with digital publishing, you know, I was living out of my car at the time before that got repoed. And so I had a friend like reach out and was like, hey, you know, because he had transitioned too. So I was looking up to him and very envious of him because I saw the success he had. And he had like a very arrogant, I don't give a fuck about anybody attitude because I'm the greatest. And I naturally just kind of followed that because I'm like, hey, dude, like he's making a couple $1 million a year. Like I could just do the same thing. And so he reached out to me and was like, hey, you know, I'm having really great success launching digital products. I need software. And so instantly I scooped up a contract with him. We started off at, I think, like $5,000 a month, quickly grew up with him and a couple other people to about $40,000 a month, which supplemented my income at the time because like I had this upgraded lifestyle, you know, and so I had this status quo, I guess, that I had to keep up with. I let a lot of that fall away during this time of personal development and spiritual healing, you know, but it still helped tie me over. So now let's fast forward back, you know, we're through that transition period, and now I feel like as a person I'm ready to really come out and express myself. And that's when Biohacked CEO was created, which biohacking, a lot of people don't really know what it is. It's simply hacking your biology to achieve a greater level of performance. And so when you have things correct with your body, you're able to do more in business. And I had connected these dots along my journey because when I was very young, 16, 17, I got into the gym business and I was running health clubs, and I've always been into health and fitness. And I already knew there was a connection between being healthy and being able to get more shit done in a day and needing less energy drinks and stimulants to accomplish that. So that's when I started to really piece together these pieces. And, the marketplace helped because at that point, Dave Asprey, who's the Bulletproof exec, was really kind of coming out, and he was talking about biohacking. And I was like, oh, this is great. And so I further invested a lot of time and money into coaches and mentors and different biohackers like Dave, who I consider a friend now, to help me get my concepts kind of more structured. And so taking all the pieces in my brain that were just divvied up into all this information, really collectively forming it into something. And like I said, that's when Biohacked CEO is really formed. And my goal with that was to give people my knowledge in all the areas that I considered relevant to performance and biohacking, which is like brain, body, and business. How to really fuse and integrate those together to have, like, I guess, a truly lifestyle business, something that fits what you want and is exactly what you want to get out of it. And so, I still have the software business and still run that too. It's very minimal because I've created enough systems and people that help me run that to where I don't really need to spend but a couple hours a day actually working on that business. When it first started and through the process of it, though, I mean, it was a time hog and it died at several points, and I revived it. I revived it again at the beginning of this year because it again was a resource and time hog that needed to be the fat needed to be trimmed and it needed to be simplified down. Because there's only really a few variables in every business that drives the bulk of the money and drives the bulk of the revenue. And so once you've figured out really what those core couple elements are, then you can determine, okay, where do I put my focus? Because if you don't, then you're just like, well, today I think I'll do this because I think it'll give me that. And you're just like questionable. And that is not good from a place of power and performance. And so, now let's fast forward to today. Those are really my two main projects that I have going on. And I feel like from a standpoint of value to the marketplace and showing up with the maximum amount of integrity that I can, that's the best thing that I can come up with. And there, it's always being refined and always like, okay, how can we push this to the next level? How can we innovate? Because innovation is something very important to me. And I feel like to be an industry leader, you have to consistently innovate. And when you don't, that's when a product or a company dies. But that's really like my primary focus now is those things. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of like my quick little story on how that all happened.
Wow. Let's have a breath now. That's a lot of stuff. Well, thank you for sharing all of this. There are a few things that popped in my mind while you were talking. Is like, first, you're very clear about this path and you have all this clarity that you can express, and it's pretty cool. The second thing is that there is such an enthusiasm in what you're saying, and it's such a speed, and then your personality is conveyed really easily, I think, of performance and passion and get things done, getting money, and learning from myself, and go for it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's taken a long time to build that, because especially after you have a defeat like I did, I didn't have anybody in my corner telling me like, hey, you're actually really close to like massive success. Like, you think you were successful before, but just imagine timesing that by 10. That's what you are literally inches from. So I didn't have that. And so instead I leveraged on things that I didn't fully understand, and then was willing to just try a lot of different things. Like I had mentioned, using like different psychedelics, but a lot of what I've built today came to me during these, I guess you would call it a trip. which, you know, my definition is completely changed of drugs and things like that. And I don't want to talk about that too much, but the point is that a lot of these visions came to me during these times. Okay. And so, yeah, it's not like that I just woke up one morning and this like popped into my brain. It was a collective effort of visions that I saw over the span of this couple years of really searching for myself, you know?
Okay, so that's a message. Go for drugs and psychedelics.
Well, I'm not trying to promote, like, and that's the thing I always want to make sure. I'm not trying to be like this advocate of like drug use, because like everybody's perception of it is very, very different. Especially if you were born and raised in the United States, I think your vision is very skewed and warped for the most part. But you know, again, that was just kind of my journey.
The ayahuasca thing, or is it more?
I didn't do ayahuasca, DMT, and then mushrooms. And I didn't get into like, when people assume drugs too, I think they think like hard stuff like cocaine and you know, crystal meth, and like I wasn't into anything like that. I was into psychedelics. So those are really the key tools that I use to explore. And within that,
to find yourself.
Yeah, and within that, I found meditation too. So, you know, meditation, hypnosis I was big into, and NLP, because I wanted to find how to reprogram myself at the deepest level. And so I felt like, obviously, there's a place for NLP in that, if you're familiar with that at all. Meditation, there's a huge place for finding yourself in meditation. Hypnosis, you know, to put yourself in that type of different altered state. And then, of course, you know, psychedelics, I feel like I'm in an altered state. I'm very impressionable in those altered states. I can reprogram or manipulate myself into, you know, this different direction that I want to go.
Cool. I didn't expect this turn in this conversation. Thank you for sharing. I think it's a new level of idea. Cool. Let me go back a bit on my notes and.
Sure.
Yeah, the first thing I was thinking when I was listening to your first experience in Detroit is it seems like a crash course. Like it seems like also in your personality, you're a kind of guy who's just, I have difficulty, I just go for it. Is it true?
Yeah, I'm very extreme in the sense that I feel like the faster I dive into this wholeheartedly, the faster I can experience it, I can learn from it, and I can get what I'm looking for out of it. And if anything, this one thing will lead to like the next thing. And I wasn't looking at a means to an end, like, I've arrived, I'm now perfect, I've fixed everything in myself. I was looking at fixing the bulk of personality that I didn't like that showed its head as soon as I started to have that success. That's what I was really looking at accomplishing with this. But throughout my life, I've always been very, like I said, extreme in terms of, okay, I want to accomplish this goal, let's just jump in. And I feel like for me, the benefit has been in doing that I have really no time to think of, well, gee, I guess you could fail. Well, I don't know how this will happen. I don't know where I'm going to go with this. When you dive in like 100% wholeheartedly, you have no time to second guess. And because I know how I've been in the past, you know, I've been in my body now for almost 30 years. Like that was a big issue for me growing up, is I was always very hesitant. And so at some point, something just clicked. And I was just like, you know what? We are going to do the exact opposite of this. I'm going to dive in so deep that I could not dig myself back out of this hole if I needed to. And within that, I'm going to learn something. And I just started doing that.
Yeah, it's very inspiring, because I think throughout our lives, we all have these fears, hesitations, and we feel something, but is it really this and really that? And you really show by your expression and your enthusiasm by going for it that an example of someone who's just, as you say, you just dive. And
yeah, absolutely.
Is it what excites you? Is it what motivates you in everything you do now? Is like what is the next dive to do?
The dive itself, no. The thing that challenges me and motivates me is, how do I become better than I was yesterday in as many areas as possible as I can in my life? And so, you know, I'm always looking to, how do I throw a curveball at myself? You know, it's funny when you start doing this too, is because you move from, we're all born and raised on competition, right? You start in elementary or middle school, the competition on the playground or with team sports. And so it's always me versus somebody else. At no point was I taught me versus myself. And I taught myself that. And I did that through my fitness journey. And so what I learned was that, you know, it's not a team sport to work out and be fit. It is a one-man journey. And I am personally responsible for the result that I get, and with my eating and with how I show up physically at the gym. And so I learned through that like this whole concept of team sports and me versus them is actually kind of rubbish, and it's actually me versus me. And so what excites me now and what I look forward to every day is just when I think I'm comfortable and I'm like patterned everything I've got going on in my days, in my life, I throw something completely different in a mix to just throw me off. So an example of this would be I had never skydove before, and I woke up one Saturday or Sunday morning. I was living in Colorado at the time, and I was just like, you know what? I'm feeling really and I'm conscious of when I start to feel complacent. And so I was like, you know what? I'm starting to feel this. I'm losing a little bit of drive with my daily, you know, work, with my daily workouts, etc. I need to mix things up. So I just decided I'm going to go skydiving today. And so I drove out. It was like 2 hours away. And I just like, and it was weird because they kept trying to like throw me off and scare me. Like I don't know if you've ever been skydiving, but like the whole game is like, let's scare the shit out of the guy.
Okay.
And I just wasn't having it. And so I think it got him mad at one point, and then they just like kind of sort of gave up and was like, okay, well, this guy's like, he doesn't care. I don't know what he's on, but he's like on some next level. Either he doesn't care about what's going to happen to him, or like he's just like focused on having some sort of like aha moment. Okay. And then they just stopped. And so that is like an example of something that I will do to kind of throw a curveball at myself. And again, it's the intention of it is really just how do I beat myself? You know, how do I beat yesterday? How do I beat last week?
Okay. So yeah, it's definitely some kind of competition within you, I believe, instead of competition with the outside world.
Yeah, I've internalized it. I've internalized the competition factor, which I feel is important because, and I could cite several examples of this, but competition, I feel like, leads to innovation when it's with yourself and externalized. Because when Microsoft, you know, and Apple, that whole thing, you know, you have Best Buy, Circuit City, you have so many examples. You have Walmart and everybody else. You have so many examples of competition leading to innovation. And so that's external competition, but internal competition does it too. So when I think, okay, how can I beat myself last week? How can I beat my best product I ever created? How can I beat the best result I've ever gotten for a client, you know, coaching wise? When you start to think on those levels, you then become creative. It's almost like those two are hand in hand. So then these inspirational moments, or these aha moments, people call them, start to happen. But it's really just because I gave myself permission to allow for that. And I did that through competing with myself.
It's interesting, this concept of beating yourself. When I hear this, it's like, is it really what he means? Or and so I'm wondering, like, what is the part of you that beating the other part of you? Is like, who's involved in this? Are you aware of this?
The underlying issue is seeking to be better every single day, whether it's 1% or 10%, like that small change of getting better and improving myself, being the best possible person that I can be in as many areas of life as I can. Then I'm just going to get better. I'm going to be able to show up more powerfully with myself, with my clients, with the people that I work with and the people that I touch. And to me, that's important because I oftentimes think of like, how will I be remembered? And what is the legacy that I'm really creating? What is the movement that I'm really creating? And that's very important to me because I'm going to like, it's interesting. In a movie, I think it was The Gladiator, there's a quote at one point. He's talking to Gladiator, you know, Russell Crowe, and he says, you know, we're all dying men. And that really stuck with me at some point in seeing it because it's true. We are all dying men. And so my immediate next thought is like, okay, well, if this is going to happen, let me first accept it, but let me also figure out how can I build this legacy that will live on beyond me and that will actually grow more stronger after I pass on. Like, and that's, if there's one thing that I could accomplish in my life, it is that I create a legacy that truly changes lives and grows on bigger than me after I leave.
So is it your actual definition of success, your legacy?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
I would say so.
Okay. So what is your legacy? Is it the idea of get better every day guy?
Yeah, it's the idea of 100% optimization, or as close to it as possible, you know, peak performance. And that's done through gradually just improving every day.
And it seems like there is also the belief that we can all do it.
There is. And I think a lot of what I've gone through can inspire people that maybe are thinking that they're so far gone, or that there's no possible way that they could do it, because I've gone through adversity, like we all have. Like, I'm not special in that sense, I don't think, but I think it's important to be able to tell your story in a way that sparks people to want to change themselves and want to improve themselves, no matter how far gone they feel like they are, or, you know, how lazy they've become, or passive, whatever it may be. Because at the end of the day, like, the micro commitment to change in a positive way is the same baby step micro commitment that you took going the other way and giving up. And so it just compiled. And so I can compile positive direction just as much as I can compile negative direction. All I have to do is decide which way I want to go. And yes, going positive and seeking the better side of life is way harder than the easy side and the complacent side. Let's face it, it is. But it's so much more rewarding. And I think when you can get down into somebody's heartstrings and let them know that right now they are just floating by, and that they are capable of being better and leaving behind a legacy, then that will motivate them to actually take a step in the right direction.
I have a question. When you talk about complacency, the question sparks is like, how do you make the distinction between this and having a rest? How do you, because you do biohacking, so I think the rest part is an important part of taking care of ourselves. And it seems like when you talk like this, it's like, okay, pump. So is this guy having rest sometimes? He's like, is it part of this equation of getting better, or is it like?
It is.
Can you talk about the distinction between this rest and complacency of just spending time watching TV and not facing our fears of going further?
Yeah, I think there's a balance to it, and just like anything else, it's consistently being refined. But there's a distinct difference between complacency and rest. Complacency is I'm facing a level of resistance in some sort of way, and instead of facing that resistance, I'm choosing to act like I'm resting. I'm not resting because my mind is very turbulent, and my heart and my soul want to go in this direction, but I'm physically not allowing myself because of what I call ego level resistance. And so I often tell people it's like this. There is a dragon, and it's right next to me, and it's there all the time. This dragon is big, it's breathing fire. I'm sweating because this dragon is literally right there breathing on me. I can choose one of two things. I can choose to acknowledge that there's a dragon there, or I can choose to acknowledge that, you know what, there's not a dragon there. And I'm going to keep focusing on this.
Okay,
is the reference to resistance, because there's fear.
One second. Let's get Skype to rest about your dragon idea, because there was a little bit of burp. So we get the idea of the dragon with fire, and then after it stopped. So I think your dragon was too sweaty, I think.
You know, the dragon had too much heat going. I think that's what's going on.
Exactly.
So there's the proverbial dragon, and that is resistance. That is fear.
Okay.
And the point of this is that never goes away. The dragon's always there. Fear is always there. Resistance is always there. It's your choice whether you're going to acknowledge that it's there, or whether you're going to stay focused and you're going to keep moving forward. Now, you will have moments of adversity. Yes, you will face this resistance and not blow through it in the speed or, you know, persistence that maybe you want. But as long as you keep looking forward, the dragon loses power. And so maybe it starts off as this huge monstrous dragon that's 10 feet high and breathing fire. But because you've ignored it and you've not given it power by acknowledgement, it starts to shrink down in size. And once you've slayed that dragon once, you'll be able to do it over and over again. And this is a concept that's brought up in The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, which is a book about how to get through writer's block and resistance when you're writing a book. But it applies to all areas of life. And when I first read this book, it's like, it's glued in my brain. I will never forget this because that just made so much sense to me at the time. I was facing so many levels of resistance and I was letting it win. And then you find that through beating it that, oh, well, I just beat it this time. So then, you know, the next time I come up against it, I'll just beat it again, right? You know, like, because you did it once. So you've set the pattern or the habit in yourself to just allow yourself to beat it.
Yeah, it seems like once you get the recipe for your own kind of success, okay,
yeah,
let's go and do it again and again and again. It seems like
and so it's really taking a lot of the belief systems that we tend to put, especially entrepreneurs tend to put into like the negative side of our business and our life, and I put it into the positive. So like it's very easy when like something bad happens to you or somebody cuts you off in traffic, right? Oh man, my day, and you go down and fall into this groove of negativity, and then the next thing you know, your day is destroyed. Well, I can contribute to the other end of the coin just as much as I can contribute to, you know, this guy cut me off, therefore my day is going to suck. And so I just take the same pattern that most people build into negative habits and I put it into positive ones. And so I'm just conscious of like, okay, I beat the dragon. So now I'll just beat it the next time. And I don't think anything more of it. And next time it comes up, I'm just like, oh, cool, there's the dragon. I'm going to beat him again. So it's very effortless.
I like
and
this
so
it's really a masculine way to improve ourselves. It's like, I'm going to beat the dragon.
Yeah, well, me, I don't know, like I'm very active and aggressive, like I have a strong libido, I guess. So everything to me is like this epic fight, you know. I oftentimes think of like the Braveheart scene, and when like they're there and they're screaming, everybody's got their face painted, or like in 300 when it's like that epic last fight scene. And I just look at that because
when you say it's freedom.
yeah, I just look at that with the issues that I tackle because it like gives me power in some sort of way, because I don't look at it as me fighting this thing anymore. I almost visualize like I have this army of 300, or Braveheart was however many people, and it's like I'm not fighting this, we are fighting this. And the we in real life is the people that are following me in this movement, in this direction that I'm going in life.
Well, that's cool. Super cool. Okay, so it might be difficult to sum up all of these things and finding what is really important in all of this. I think the most important is your inspiration. Is like someone who's just go for it, dive into things, is clear about what he wants, and every time he finds some things difficult inside of it, he's just facing it. He doesn't ignore it. He's facing it and go for the next one. And the idea of getting better and better every day. I think that's what I get the most out of what you were saying.
I would agree because, you know, people will tend to avoid the difficult things, but they don't realize that gains power just as much as if I were to tackle it instantly, the second that it comes up. I mean, if possible, of course. You know, some things do take time to digest or actually formulate a plan for, but, you know, the faster you can tackle this challenge that's been placed in front of you, the faster you'll get through it. Is just the simple way to define it. So would that be the
first step you would recommend for people who wants to just start to go for it as you do? Is like...
Yeah, but not take big steps. Again, we tend to, and there's research done on this from a neuroscience standpoint, but we tend to operate off of the side of our brain, which is the left side, that sees the forest and not the trees. So it sees the big picture but not the details. And entrepreneurs really fall into this trap. Whereas a savant, which 10% of autistic kids are actually considered savants, therefore they can operate and see the trees, not necessarily the forest. So they're able to see the details. And so immediately when we start talking about these big grandiose ideas about, yeah, tackling fear and really just going for it, people are like, whoa, calm down, buddy. Like I've got this dream in my head and these goals, they're massive. Don't think of the massive picture. Really start to train your brain to think of what's the one thing I could do today that will put me in that direction. That completely changes the game and makes it more acceptable in your internals, in your subconscious level. What's the one thing I could do today, this week, that will change my direction and start heading me towards my goal? That's cool. You know, forget about trying to come up with, what am I going to do this year? That might be too big of a picture to start with. If you really need to dumb it down to the one simple thing you could do and start from there.
I love it. Again, from my tennis background, it makes a lot of sense. It's like, okay, I realize that I'm tight in my forehand, in my shoulder. Okay, today I just focus on this one thing and I relax this, or I learn to breathe, or in my life, today I'm meditating 5 times,
maybe today I'll take a day off. Maybe I'll take a day off today. Yeah, absolutely.
So what is your one thing today?
My one thing today goes along with like a new experiment that I'm running for physical fitness side. So my one thing today is to get into the gym, and I have certain lifts weight wise that I want to accomplish today.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's my thing for today.
Perfect. Yeah, and obviously it's in all areas of our lives. It's not only entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It's like fitness and
all these areas cross over, and that's an important thing to note too. Is all areas cross over. You know, my strength and fitness carries over to my business, and I can apply the strengths from my fitness and from my health to my business. From my business, I can move them over to my health, relationships, my spirituality. All these things integrate. Like, they're not separate pieces on the board. They're all integrated and intertwined together, and they feed each other.
Yeah, this is a good point. It's a good point. I think we have all these areas in our lives, and we start to get confidence in one area, and then that feeds to another one, and then maybe we need to refocus at some point on the first area. But it's like, how do we build step by step the confidence to go in every direction of our life?
Yeah, and it's done just like you said, step by step, baby steps.
Yeah, that's cool. I can really relate to this. Okay,
cool,
thank you, Jameson. How can people know about you, know more, be interested in what you're doing? How do they reach you?
Stay in touch?
Yeah.
The best way would be to head over to biohackedceo.com, and from there I have all my social media. I would suggest to follow the blog and follow me on Facebook. Those are the two main channels that I put out inspiration, content, and things like that on a regular basis. I do have Twitter, Instagram, all those other things. They're like sub-faculties to me. The big focus for me is the blog and Facebook itself. So that's my it's connected to my personal page. So
that's cool. Okay, so let's do this. Let's
cool, man.
You. Okay, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure. I can relate to many aspects of you. I didn't know before the interview, okay, this guy seems so enthusiastic and pump. I was thinking, can I fully relate to what he's saying? And yeah, I can definitely. And there is personal development into it. There is, we haven't dived so much in Deepak Chopra and all of this, but it resonates. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, bye.